Veliki pozdrav i dobrodošli u novo izdanje emisije Oni vole Srbiju. Naš današnji gost je Ajzea Kenan, košarkaš Crvene zvezde, pa da ne gubimo vreme, idemo da ga upoznamo i da čujemo njegovu priču. Ajzea, thank you so much for the interview. I'm so glad to have you in the show. So my first question, how are you doing?
Oh, good. I mean, the weather's nice. Traffic is flowing. So, you know, everything here in Belgrade is moving kind of smoothly. And the biggest thing, the weather is nice. So everything is going good.
And how you saying how crazy it is. One day is snowing, the other day is super sunny. This is super crazy here. It's not like Athens.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of strange. Actually, the other day it rained, and for about 8 months, I never heard thunder. And that was, you know, new until the rainstorm the other day. So I think the weather here is definitely a lot different than other places.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk, this is a side of Belgrade, but we're gonna talk about this later, you know, because we're gonna talk about your life here and your experience in Crvene zvezde. But first of all, you know, I told you before, in this show, I wanna get to know the person. Not only Ajzea, the player, but the son, the father, the person, the man. So tell us, please, who is Ajzea?
I'm Ajzea Kenan. You know, born and raised in Biloxi, Mississippi. Started playing basketball around maybe 6, you know, as far as I can remember. That's when my dad put a ball in my hand. And basketball wasn't the only sport that I played. Played football, obviously basketball, ran track. Tried a couple other sports, baseball, but that wasn't really my, you know, thing. I was afraid to get hit with the ball, so I stopped playing. But I love fishing. You know, fishing is a great hobby of mine that I like to do when I'm not playing or if I'm on vacation with the family. I like to go and, you know, fish when I can. And
is that relaxing you?
It's very relaxing. I mean, I'm a simple guy. You know, I like to do small things, family oriented. Like to spend time with my friends. Always watching, you know, basketball whenever I can. And when I can get away from it, you know, I just spend a lot of time with family. I'm from Mississippi, so country guy. And, you know, very, very family oriented.
Okay, yeah, that was interesting. You said, I'm from Mississippi. I'm a country guy, very family oriented, because we're from Serbia. We don't know how our Mississippi guys, for that reason I asked you, explain that to me. But yeah, you said that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in Mississippi, it's a small, you know, small town, Biloxi. I call it a mini version of Vegas. You know, we have casinos on the beach. A lot of people come there, retire, you know, spend a lot of their time after, you know, working. It has a military base. And, you know, it's about an hour from New Orleans. So, you know, a lot of people may know New Orleans compared to Biloxi, Mississippi. So, I mean, it's a small town at the bottom of Mississippi.
Yeah, people here know about New Orleans, but for other reasons, not very nice reasons.
The seafood is real good.
Yeah, the seafood is really
The seafood is real good.
It's really good. But okay, when you said that your dad put a ball in your hand when you were a kid, I know that both your parents were like basketball players. Right? So it's a family tradition. I can imagine when you were a kid, you guys only talk about basketball all the time. So it was super cool, right?
Yeah, it was very, you know, like you said, my mom and my dad both played. And a funny story, my mom was pregnant, you know, with me when she was a senior in high school. And she actually stopped playing when she got elbowed, you know, in the stomach. And I always say that bump, you know, gave me it made me, you know, kind of who I am, the basketball player.
In a good way.
In a good way, yeah. That little bump of thunder, you know, might have you know, gave me a few powers, you know, just to be able to, you know, reach my dream and, you know, to be the type of player that I am today. You know, my dad and mom and my grandma both had, you know, major influences on, you know, me as a person and me as a player.
Wow. But wait. Your mom was pregnant and she was still playing basketball?
Yeah, she's crazy.
She's so brave. She's a superwoman. I mean,
she's crazy. I go back and ask her sometimes. I'm like, did you know? You know, and I think she might have knew, but it might have been early. You know, it wasn't super late. You know, it wasn't at the crazy stages. But
yeah.
She definitely stopped playing after that happened. You know, so.
Man, you're definitely a basketball family. You definitely love basketball. I mean, that's good because I presume it was super great and super cool to grow up in that environment with the two parents that are super involved in sports. So they gave you a sort of positive energy. But tell me about your beginnings, because we know like the beginnings are always the toughest, right? It's super tough in that moment. So what was your story?
I mean, mine is you know, it's not too much to my story, but you know, I was a kid growing up, you know, doing what kids love to do. You know, obviously I was talented in basketball, and that was just one of the sports that, you know, kind of stuck with me. But you know, growing up as a kid, you know, going out to play with my friends, playing basketball in the backyard, riding bikes all, you know, throughout the city, and you know, also as a kid, you know, you go through some things that help you kind of mature and grow up, you know, into now the young man that I am. And, you know, I had some experiences, you know, dealing with hurricanes as a kid, you know, different type of disasters, you know, that you can't control, you know, it's just Mother Nature, you know, those type things. But, you know, as I grew up in the church, you know, played the drums, I sang in the choir, was always in Easter programs and Christmas programs, you know, different things like that. You know, I just loved to, you know, be a kid when I was a kid and just enjoy my time with my friends and my family.
That was interesting what you said, because you said, okay, dealing with hurricanes, you cannot do anything. It's something that is stronger and bigger than you, but it's like a lesson for life, because sometimes in life we have some situations that even if you put a lot of efforts, if you're doing everything, you cannot like decide the faith, but you can keep working, right?
Absolutely. Yep. So, and those little times, you know, taught me, you know, not to focus so much on material things. You know, as a 14-year-old kid, you know, you just love playing outside, and you know, you don't see life, you know, in front of you. And that was a time of my life where I had to grow up pretty fast, you know, because I didn't think I was gonna be here, you know, after that day. But like I say, it's a moment in my life where I learned, you know, to kind of mature and, you know, just focus on what life is really about, and that's, you know, just enjoying it first and foremost, and you know, knowing that you do have, you know, people around you and in your circle that cares about you, and you just try to go be the best version, you know, and play the cards that was given to you, and try to make your life the best you can. Man, I kind of, you know, take every day like that, you know, live it like it's my last, and try to enjoy it the best way I can.
That's super important what you're saying, Ajzea, because you need to keep in mind one thing. You and your teammates here in Europe, for those guys that want to play basketball, you're idols. So everything you do, everything you said is extremely important for them. So this is a big lesson, something that you said right now for the mindset, because I think the sports mindset is the number one thing, first of all.
Always got to be mentally tough, for sure.
Yeah.
Always.
Let's talk about, okay, we don't want to talk about sad things right now, because it's not sad. It's not sad, but it's, let's talk about your college career, because in the States, it's a little bit different from here in Europe. You need to have good grades to go to the high school, good college, but your story was super particular and super inspiring, I think, for other players. So tell me about the college period.
Well, I wasn't, you know, I didn't think I was highly recruited that much out of high school, and, you know, Murray State was a school that kind of, you know, came and recruited me tough. My junior year, senior year, last 10 years in high school, I went to Murray State. I was able to, you know, get to the NCAA tournament 2 out of the 4 years, won 3 conference championships in college. You know, I had a tremendous college career. You know, I'm very thankful for my coaches like Billy Kennedy, Steve Prohm, you know, the late Amir Rahim. You know, all those guys helped me, you know, along my college career, and along my teammates, you know, helped push me and become the player that I am. And you know, I had a lot of great times at Murray State. You know, went to the NCAA tournament as a freshman and as a junior. Got pretty close to the Sweet 16 2 times, and you know, I had a great, you know, my jersey retired. You know, I got a chance to get my jersey retired, and you know, I was one of those players in college, you know, that a lot of people that looked up and can remember, you know, because I went to a mid-major. I didn't go to the Kentuckys or the Dukes, those type of schools, even though I did want to go to LSU coming out of high school. But you know, I was very blessed to be able to go and have 4 great years at Murray State.
Mm-hmm. You were talking about coaches, and you mentioned few people, but how important it is actually to have a very good coach, especially when you're that young?
It's very important. You know, you know, a coach is your boss, you know, so if you have a boss that's allowing you to kind of, you know, be free and, you know, explore your talents and, you know, all your abilities within, you know, everything that they're trying to accomplish, you know, with the team. As a player, you couldn't ask for anything, you know, more, you know, and that, you know, that brings a lot of motivation out of you, the responsibility, you know, from the coach, expecting, you know, a lot from you. And, you know, guys that like to compete and accept those type of roles, you know, you want to be able to play for a coach like that. And I was blessed to have, you know, great coaches that allowed me to be, you know, open and play with my talents and my abilities.
Do you see yourself in the future as a coach?
Nah. I can't.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know if I have the patience, you know, to be a coach. It takes a lot of patience to, you know, manage a lot of these, you know, egos that you know, men have as basketball players or just as athletes, you know. And at that point in my career, I don't think I want to go back and deal with all those, you know, because it's not that easy. I give a lot of coaches credit, you know, to be able to deal with not only kids, teenagers, adults. You know, you got to manage a lot of personalities, and it takes special people to do that.
But do you want to stay in basketball or maybe do something else?
I don't know. You know, I'm still thinking on that. I still have a few years left, and when that time comes, I definitely want to take some time away from basketball, you know, just to experience, you know, a few other things. And I don't know, I may get into fishing. I really love fishing. And I might get into that some way, somehow.
For the record, I don't want you to retire. I was just asking because you have a potential actor, a potential Hollywood star in the team, Mike Dahl, your teammate. So I was asking, you know, do you have any plans? But okay, don't think about this.
I mean, if he going to acting when he's finished, I mean, I did have a small, you know, dream of being an actor one day, but that's something that Mike goes and I see he's serious about it, and I got some time. I'm gonna go try to.
Okay. Right. But let's talk about this maybe a couple of years. Just
for sure. Down the line, way down the line.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to talk about NBA right now. EuroLeague, of course, in Zvezda. But if you agree, let's go to the restaurant because we don't have where to walk here anymore. So we're done.
Big city, we run out of real estate here.
Let's go inside. Let's go. talking about before about college, your college career, and now I would like to talk about the NBA period. I mean, I know that for you guys, this is the biggest dream when you're starting your basketball career to play in the NBA. So tell me about this.
I mean, shoot, it's you know, being first off being drafted. You know, it was a dream come true. I had all my friends, my family, mom, dad, grandma hosted a draft party at my high school. You know, just to be able to sit in my high school, you know, remember all those games that I played. Had my college coaches there. All of them was, you know, there seeing, you know, and waiting on this moment that I've, you know, dreamed about as a 6-year-old kid. You know, from the moment I started playing, you know, my idol was my dad. You know, Allen Iverson. You know, which is why I have the braids now, which is why I wear number 3. He wasn't the tallest, you know, I'm not the tallest, you know, but he had a big heart, you know, he was a competitor, and he always felt, you know, that he could compete and, you know, and be amongst all the people that they said was better than him, or, you know, that they felt, you know, he couldn't compete against. And, you know, those type of things that, you know, I learned from my dad and from, you know, just having an idol in Allen Iverson that made me compete and be the player I am, and, you know, getting drafted, you know, all those emotions from, you know, a kid, you know, just all hit me. And, you know, it was a very, you know, special moment for me and my family. And I was the first one in my family to ever be, you know, a professional athlete. And, you know, it was definitely a day to remember. And, you know, I would never forget that moment, you know, just being drafted and, being able to be in the NBA, you know, for 7 years. Played on many teams, got drafted to the Rockets, played for the 76ers, got a chance to play with Hall of Famers like Jimmy, D. Wade, you know, future Hall of Famers, James Harden, Carmelo Anthony, Paul George, you know, Westbrook, Dwight Howard. You know, got a chance to play with a lot of guys. Played on many teams, like I said, Chicago Bulls, Phoenix Suns, a little bit with Minnesota and Milwaukee with Giannis. And, you know, it was a, you know, great time in my, you know, career. And, you know, I would never forget that, you know, never forget that. And, you know, this is a time that as a kid, you know, when you think of those times and it actually happened, you know, you kind of lose yourself. And, it was a very special time for me.
Your eyes are different when you're talking about the NBA. When you're talking about this period, you cannot
tough,
see
you know,
that, but I can see that.
It's tough to get there, you know. It's very difficult, and you know, I had a lot of challenges and a lot of things that, you know, that made me a better player, and you know, helped me get there. People, coaches, friends, family, you know, all helped me to get there. And it's like, I mean, I just think about it because it's not easy to do. And, you know, I'm very thankful and I'm very blessed that, you know, God gave me the ability and the talent to actually, you know, be one of those very few selected to be able to play in the NBA.
We're talking about the challenges and the challenges that made you the player that we can see today. Can you share with us those
you
challenges?
know, just small things. You know, I wasn't the most recruited. I'm not the tallest, you know, but you know, the will inside of me, my competitiveness, you know, that, you know, pushed me, and those helped me over those obstacles where we playing against teams that are just, you know, so much better than our team, but I'm able to help our team win, you know, against those type of teams. I'm able to play against some of those, you know, giants that you got to go up against and play against and be a good player. You know, that's the biggest thing, is to be able to stand out, you know, where you're not the tallest, you don't jump the highest, you know, and you have a skill set and ability to push you to be that giant amongst other giants. And you know, it's just a competitor in my heart, you know, that I got. And I'm not afraid of anybody. I don't back down from anybody. And those things, you know, help me be the player that I am.
I definitely understand that that was your dream, and for you was you accomplished your goal when you went to the NBA. But we need to talk even about another part. We don't talk about this, but there's a lot of pressure, right? When you go there, you know, this is the best league in the world, so you need every day you need to prove to everybody that you deserve to be there. So I can imagine you had to deal with a lot of things, with pressure, with you need to, you know, to talk maybe to people to handle everything.
Yeah, definitely. It's they always say it's hard to get there,
Yeah.
and it's even harder to stay, you know. And I was blessed to play 6 good years, 7 good years in the NBA, and you know, a lot of people don't get those opportunities, you know. So I never take them for granted, and I'm very thankful. You know, each and every day I continue to, you know, push myself to try to be, you know, the best player that I can, the best version of myself that I can be. And, you know, being able to play with a lot of great guys in the NBA. So it's no hate, you know, I don't hate anybody, but when we get ready to go play, you know, we're not friends anymore. You know, we're enemies. So that's how it is.